Okay, chapter 27 of the book of Numbers. Uh, they're going to explain now how some of the inheritances are going to work. How does this all fit together? So they're planning and preparing to go into uh, the promised land and helping people understand. So here's when we get in here. Here's how we're going to divide it up. Here's how it's going to work, basically. So the law of inheritances to sons, daughters, and kinsmen is explained. Moses will see but not enter the promised land. Joshua is called and set apart to lead Israel. So this might not seem like a significant chapter, but it is. This is where we're getting to the end of Moses's time, and now Joshua is going to take over and rule with the people and go and become take. Moses is going to leave because he was told he's not going into the promised land, and he is going to leave. And then Joshua is becoming the leader. So this is the first time they've had a new leader in over 40 years, basically, since that Moses has been their leader since they left Egypt. And now Joshua is going to take over as the leader. All right, verse 1. Then came the daughters of Zelophehad, the son of Hepher, the son of Gilead, the son of Machir, the son of Manasseh, of the families of Manasseh, the son of Joseph. And these are the names of his daughters. So it goes through Mala, Noah, Hagla, Milcah, and Tirzah. They stood before Moses and before Eleazar the priest and before the princes and all the congregation by the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, saying, our father died in the wilderness, and he was not in the company of them that gathered themselves together against the Lord in the company of Korah, but died in his own sin and had no sons. Why should the name of our father be done away from among his family? Because he hath no son? Give us therefore a possession among the brethren of our father. So I think this is a really good insight here. Okay, so remember in the last chapter, they talked about numbering the men. Okay, so that's how you got your inheritance. So these sisters come together and go, wait a minute, our dad, okay, he didn't die with Korah, and remember the 250 that rebelled. He wasn't a rebellious person. He didn't deal with all those rebellions. He didn't die with those people because he was righteous. Our dad is a righteous man. Why should he lose his inheritance? Why should his name suddenly stop being counted and looked at just because he had daughters instead of sons? This doesn't seem fair. Why can't he have an inheritance? It's not our fault he had daughters. It's not necessarily his fault. It's not like he could control whether he had a son or a daughter. So why should he lose out? He was a good man. Why should he lose out? And I think this is great. This is kind of, I wouldn't say this is going along the lines of like modern day equality, but at least it starts to put that principle together of why should he be treated different, basically, which I think is a valid argument to be made to look at why should people be treated different. If he was a righteous man, he did good stuff. It's not a cursing that he was blessed with all daughters, but he's going to lose his inheritance in the land because he doesn't have a son to go along with that. So they came to Moses and said, we think this is a problem. Will you pray and ask God about this? Verse 5, and Moses brought their cause before the Lord. So he went and said, okay, I'll pray and ask God what we need to do about this. Verse 6, the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, the daughters of Zelophehad speak right. Thou shalt surely give them a possession of an inheritance among their father's brethren. Thou shalt cause the inheritance of their father to pass unto them. So this is actually, in a way, revolutionary because women were historically not allowed to own land. They were not allowed to make the decisions around their land. Remember, if a husband died, then that mother, her oldest son, acts like the head of the household. So while they're not married together, uh, she and her oldest son basically deal with the family decisions. So oldest son, kind of becomes like the dad of the family in essence. He takes a responsibility to himself for that as a leader of the family, basically. So now they're saying women can hold possession. So this is really good. This is really, really good. Thou shalt speak, verses, this is, let's say, verse 8, thou shalt speak unto the children of Israel, saying, if a man die and have no son, then ye shall cause his inheritance to pass unto his daughter. And if he have no daughter, then ye shall give his inheritance unto his brethren. If he have no brethren, then ye shall give his inheritance unto his father's brethren. And if his father have no brethren, then ye shall give his inheritance unto his kinsman that is next to him of his family, and he shall possess it, and it shall be unto the children of Israel a statute of judgment, as the Lord commanded Moses. So they're saying, look, yeah, that's fine. Women can hold possession. If a man has all daughters, they still get the inheritance of the land. So the land that he was given, they get his inheritance. Okay, this is kind of revolutionary for the time because this was so uncommon. But we see this throughout all these books of Moses, is where things have come up, and actually we've seen numerous times where women have been given some kind of an equality or an opportunity to have choices, to make decisions, to do things. So I love this because as compared to the other groups of people, this was unheard of. That guy would have been like, SOL. I'd be like, look, you had all daughters, man. You must be cursed. Your inheritance is lost. So this is that's what would have happened under most circumstances. So in fact, this is kind of, if it's interesting because in the oh man, what is that book? Um, it's going to come to me. There's a book. Anyways, there's a book, a story of a man who has all daughters. It's during more Victorian times. Dang it! I know like every woman will know exactly what book this is as soon as I say it, but I can't remember what it is. But it's the one with Mr. Darcy. Man, the name of the book is like right there, but it's not coming to mind. But anyways, all the women are like, yeah, here's what it is. Put it in the comments. The name of the book, please. Um, that's crazy because we've watched it several times. But anyways, it's kind of a similar story, similar challenge, because who's going to take over his estate? He's got a house, he's got land, but he has all daughters, and so how's that going to work out? Basically, is the government going to take it all over, and his daughters are going to lose their inheritance, or what's going to happen? So this is great that these women came to Moses and said, we feel there's an injustice, we feel there's a problem here. And Moses said, okay, I will take this to the Lord. He didn't write them off and go, no, you're wrong, you can't do it that way. He went, okay, I will take your concerns to God. And he took them to God, and God said, actually, the daughters are right. We need to give them the inheritance. So here's how it works. So that's a good thing. Okay. As a leader, it's nice to be open-minded to the opinions of others, to make sure that they have their thoughts and opinions heard and understood. So it doesn't mean they're always right, but it does mean that we need to be understanding of somebody else's position and what's going on, and be fair. Okay, now verse 12, the Lord said unto Moses, get thee up into this mount Abarim, and see the land which I have given unto the children of Israel. So this is another revelation that is given directly, where Moses is now told, you need to go up to this mountain so you can see the promised land, basically. In verse 13, when thou hast seen it, thou also shalt be gathered unto thy people as Aaron thy brother was gathered. So this is kind of reminding him of when Aaron passed away, and when we transferred the power from Aaron, the high priest, to his son Eleazar. We're going to do that as well. So you remember in verse 14, for ye rebelled against my commandment in the desert of Zin, in the strife of the congregation, to sanctify me at the water before their eyes, that is the water of Meribah in Kadesh in the wilderness of Zin. So remember, when the children of Israel had a rebellion, Moses was pretty pissed back then. This was about 5 or 6 chapters ago. And Moses kind of rebelled. Remember, Moses and Aaron kind of came together and rebelled because the people were thirsty. I remember Moses was told to command the water, say a word to the rock, and the rock would split into it. But Moses hit the rock twice instead. So the Lord is basically saying, because you didn't follow my command all the way, you are not going into the promised land. Which, seems like a bad thing. It's like, dude, he was Moses. He did everything, he did all this stuff. Why would God punish him at the end? The reality is Moses got to go to a different promised land, the afterlife. Basically, he didn't die. So that's kind of a spoiler alert. So here's verse 15. And Moses spake unto the Lord, saying, so again, this is another revelation. Let the Lord, the God of the spirits of all flesh, set a man over the congregation. Oh, no, sorry. This is Moses speaking into the Lord, saying, okay, fine. Well, we need to have a ruler. We need to set somebody over them to rule him. So verse 17, which may go out before them, which may go in before them, which may lead them out, which may bring them in, that the congregation of the Lord be not as sheep which have no shepherd. And the Lord said to Moses, take thee Joshua, the son of Nun, a man in whom is the Spirit, and lay thine hand upon him. And it's interesting because the name Joshua, that is the Greek, that's the English translation of the Greek word, basically, of his name, Yahushua, which actually also means Jehovah, basically, can be translated that way. So it's kind of cool that their leader is actually a similar related name to God and to Jesus, basically, as well. So verse 19, and set him before Eleazar the priest and before all the congregation, and give him a charge in their sight. Thou shalt put some of thine honor upon him, that all the congregation of the children of Israel may be obedient. And he shall stand before Eleazar the priest, who shall ask counsel for him after the judgment of Urim before the Lord. At his word they go out, and at his word they shall come in, both he and all the children of Israel with him, even all the congregation. Now here's the thing, verse 21 is important. He, Joshua, shall stand before Eleazar the priest, who shall ask counsel for him after the judgment of Urim before the Lord. This is talking about the Urim and Thummim, the ability to receive revelation. Okay, kind of the two seer stones. So you can see the future, you can interpret things, see what can't be seen. That's what's going on. So the high priest, remember, that's part of that breastplate is the two little spots where the stones would go so that the priest can use them to look into and divine things. Divine the future, divine more of what's going on around them, those kinds of things. So there's a dynamic between Joshua, who's leading the people of Israel. He's kind of the ruler of Israel. And then Eleazar's the high priest of Israel. And they're going to work together, basically. So this is an important thing to look at as well, because he's going to lay his hands on him. He's going to anoint him and prepare Joshua to be the leader. So this is what's going on. Verse 22, Moses did as Lord commanded him. He took Joshua, set him before Eleazar, the priest, before all the congregation. He laid his hands upon him and gave him a charge, as the Lord commanded by the hand of Moses. So now Moses is no longer the leader of Israel. He still has the priesthood, the Melchizedek priesthood, of course, and he's going to leave and take that with him. Joshua is being set aside as the ruler of Israel, the leader of Israel. But not necessarily the priest of Israel. That's Eleazar. So the spiritual leader of Israel and the political leader, if you will, of Israel are going to be two different people. And so this is kind of a first time they've had this separation. Even though Moses was more of the leader of Israel and Eleazar was the high priest of Israel, Moses was still the prophet. Okay, but now we're going to have a greater dynamic between the political leader and the religious leader. Okay, the religious leader still follows Joshua as far as leading the Israel, but Eleazar is going to be the one that can communicate more with God as well and receive those revelations and things. So an interesting dynamic that they're setting up as they're getting ready to go into the promised land, and Moses is going to leave them now. So let's go on to the next chapter to read more about this.